Remembering September 11th, 19 years later, an attack that changed this nation forever. You are looking at live pictures of Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and Lower Manhattan. Hello, everyone. I'm Tanya Rivero. Thank you for joining us. It will forever be a day most people will remember not only where they were, but what they were doing when terrorists carried out the worst attack on American soil. I was jogging in downtown Manhattan when the first plane flew over my head just moments before it hit the World Trade Center, flying far too low for a commercial airliner. And now, 19 years after that horrific day, we all pause to honor those who lost their lives in the 3 separate attacks on September 11th. In New York City, family, friends, and some dignitaries marked the solemn occasion with moments of silence to mark the time the planes hit the buildings and the point in which each building collapsed. But many commemorations had a bit of a different feel this year because of the pandemic. For instance, in Lower Manhattan, the reading of the names was recorded instead of read in person by family members. In New York, twin beams of light marked the spot where the Twin Towers once stood. The tribute was not going to happen because of the coronavirus, but Governor Cuomo and others worked to make sure it went on as usual. Nancy Chen has more.
The September 11th ceremony at the 9/11 Memorial in Lower Manhattan included moments of silence, but this year it did not include the traditional live reading of the victims' names because of coronavirus concerns. Instead, it was a recording of the names.
And my brother.
Some victims' family members who were upset by that decision set up their own ceremony nearby.
We knew that it was of the utmost importance that we read aloud the names of all 2,977 souls who perished 19 years ago today.
9/11 observances are also different this year at the Pentagon, where military leaders conducted the ceremony without victims' families in attendance.
We never forget those who were murdered by the terrorists.
And at the Flight 93 Memorial near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, the usual 90-minute ceremony was abbreviated. Here in New York, the fire commissioner strongly recommended firefighters skip 9/11 observances during the pandemic. The department lost 343 members that day. Firefighter Leonard Regaglia Sr., a member of Engine 54, was one of them. His 2 sons, Leonard Jr. and Anthony, are honoring him by following in his footsteps.
I have the honor and privilege of working in the same firehouse that he worked in, the same company. So it really means a lot to me.
I always looked up to my dad and what he did. And then I think as I matured and as the time went on, year after year, it became more and more of something I wanted to do.
They say they think their father would be proud. Nancy Chen, CBS News, New York.
I want to bring in Keith Taylor now. He was the responding NYPD missing persons detective sergeant during 9/11. He's now an adjunct assistant professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Keith, welcome. So happy to have you with us today. Now, you were at the World Trade Center on that. Thank you for being with us. You were there at the World Trade Center on that horrific day. Can you share with us some of what you experienced?
It was beyond description. The tragedy of seeing people jump from windows, seeing the building collapse, seeing all the destruction that occurred that day was etched in my mind forever, as it was throughout the world. The visual images that people saw do not do justice to actually being there and experience it firsthand. And seeing the groundswell support from the entire country, from the entire world, to recover from that was critically important. We need that now.
And Keith, what would you like people then to remember 19 years later?
I would like them to remember the bravery and sacrifice of the first responders, of the civilians, of the unknown people that helped to save lives that day, and who helped the nation help us recover from that tragedy. There are a lot of nameless people that sacrificed a lot to help.
Absolutely. And of course, next year will mark 2 decades since this tragedy that really, shaped our country in so many ways. Of course, no country is static. It always changes and develops. But how do you think our country has changed since then in ways both positive and perhaps negative?
I think that, unfortunately, right now, the country is in a period of great division. And what compounds that problem is the fact that we have a national emergency, actually a global emergency in the pandemic, and all the economic crisis and public safety crisis that has resulted from that. So what I think we need is to remember that we are Americans first, and political affiliation, religious, national origin, ethnic, that is all, secondary to the fact that we are Americans first. We need to respect each other and look out for each other the same way that we did during 9/11. And I have hope that we will do that because we've done it in crisis past. It's a history of this country to come together and to pull through.
That's the importance of days like this, to remind everyone that we are Americans first. Keith, it's almost 20 years out now. We are seeing some of the children of first responders become officers and firefighters themselves. What has that been like for you to see that development?
It gives me a sense of pride to see children follow in the footsteps of the men and women who were first responders, who made certain that the public was protected, and to see that tradition carried on is really a powerful statement, and it warms my heart to see them do that.
And Keith, how do you generally mark this day?
I mark this day by working, by doing things in my community that are going to help make things better. I think that's the best way that I can respect the memory of those who lost their lives, by making the world a better place in small ways or large. And I think that we need more of that now during this time of national crisis.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And Keith Taylor, thank you so much for joining us on this special day.
Thank you for having me.